We're back with breaking news out of Virginia, where Attorney General Pam Bondi just confirmed the FBI executed a search warrant at the home of a Washington Post journalist. Bondi says the journalist was, quote, obtaining and reporting classified and illegally leaked information from the Pentagon contractor, who she adds is currently behind bars. Hannah Natanson, who covers the federal workforce, was at her home when this search was executed. The Post says she has been part of the publication's most high-profile and sensitive coverage during the first year of the second Trump administration. Let's bring in MS Now senior legal reporter Lisa Rubin and MS Now legal analyst, former Manhattan Assistant District Attorney Catherine Christian. Lisa, what do you make of Bondi's comments on this investigation, this search warrant? Just how unusual is all of this?
Well, it's incredibly unusual. Let's start with the fact that in April of last year, Pam Bondi rescinded a Department of Justice policy that was promulgated by then Attorney General Merrick Garland during the Biden administration. And in place of that policy, she put in a new policy to make it easier for the Department of Justice to conduct searches of journalists.
Democratic lawmakers have recently increased public pressure on President Donald Trump and several senior members of his administration, calling for resignations, investigations, or removal from office. While no binding congressional votes have forced resignations or removals, these actions reflect a coordinated political strategy centered on accountability and oversight. At present, Congress has not passed any resolution requiring the Trump administration or its cabinet members to resign. No impeachment articles have been adopted by both chambers, and no formal proceedings under the 25th Amendment have advanced. What has occurred is a series of public statements, floor speeches, and proposed resolutions from Democratic lawmakers targeting specific officials for specific concerns. Several members of Trump's national security team have faced calls to resign. These demands stem largely from reported lapses in information security and concerns about judgment and protocol. Democratic lawmakers argue that leaked communications involving military or intelligence matters demonstrate inadequate safeguards around sensitive information and raise questions about leadership fitness. These calls are political pressure tactics rather than enforceable actions. Similarly, the Secretary of Homeland Security has faced criticism and resignation demands related to immigration enforcement practices. Democratic lawmakers cite reports of aggressive enforcement actions and allegations of excessive force, framing these concerns as human rights and accountability issues. Again, these demands have not resulted in formal disciplinary action, but serve to elevate scrutiny and public debate. Beyond individual officials, some Democrats have called for President Trump himself to be removed from office, either through impeachment or by invoking the 25th Amendment. Impeachment proposals have been introduced by individual members of Congress, alleging abuse of power and misconduct, but none have advanced due to the current balance of power in Congress. Calls to invoke the 25th Amendment remain symbolic, as such action would require the cooperation of the Vice President, a majority of the Cabinet, and supermajorities in Congress if contested. While these efforts have not produced immediate legal consequences, they serve several political purposes. First, they maintain sustained scrutiny on the administration and its leadership. Second, they allow Democrats to frame specific incidents as evidence of broader governance concerns. Third, they help establish a campaign narrative focused on accountability, particularly in advance of the 2026 midterm elections. From a strategic standpoint, these actions also allow Democratic lawmakers to argue that institutional checks are currently limited and that electoral outcomes are necessary to enable stronger oversight mechanisms. The administration, for its part, has rejected these calls and maintains that it will only leave office through elections or constitutionally defined processes. In short, the current situation represents an escalation in political rhetoric and oversight efforts, rather than a constitutional crisis or imminent removal of officials. The outcome of these disputes will largely depend on future elections, congressional composition, and whether investigations produce findings that shift political or public opinion.